Hey, have you ever noticed yourself getting cranky, irritable, feeling tired, feeling exhausted? Well, that could be a sign of a major mental illness, or it just could be a sign that your battery is low and that you need to recharge. And that's what I think, more than that you're struggling with something we need to medicate or something, we need to do 10 years of therapy for. I think you just need to take care of yourself and you need to recharge. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, is what a little bit is self-care and some secrets about how to create some good self-care for you. Hi, I'm Brett Williams, licensed psychotherapist and executive director for The Gathering. The Gathering of Good People is a nonprofit dedicated to helping you with your emotional healing by helping you create some personal growth. All right, hey, today to help us, I brought along a very special guest, my pops, my pappy, Tom Williams, who is also a licensed marriage family therapist, psychotherapist, as I am. That's where it got inspired. And you're going to help us talk about self-care, self-love,
Sure, why not? I taught you everything you know. Yeah. So for me to say a word about self-care, something I think that's underrated, overlooked a lot, is your own sense of pleasure. What really feels good to you? Because we're wired in such a way that what feels good to us, generally speaking, is good for us. Something that doesn't taste good or doesn't smell good or doesn't feel good is probably not in our best interest. So it's kind of like surfing. You sit on your board and you wait, you time, you wait to feel the rhythm of the waves, and you wait to catch a big one, and then you go in. And so that feeling for the appropriate moment to start something, if you feel you need to lose weight or diet or something, don't force yourself into a diet. Maybe just cut out one thing, but wait until you feel like you're ready to do it. Conflict is not good. Conflict leads to defeat. So it's best to just wait until you're totally positive about it and then do it.
The way I love to say that is that you can't hate your way to happiness. And oftentimes our favorite driver are negative drivers: stress, anxiety, self-deprecation, self-hate.
Should.
We should on ourselves. And what I hear you saying is that negative drivers can't lead us to a positive destination. There's actually a scripture that I can think about that says, good trees bear good fruit, bad trees bear bad fruit. And, if we use this bad tree analogy of self-hate, shoulds, negativity, it's never going to produce good fruit. But if we use this
positive
starting point of, hey, I want to focus on doing something good or something that feels good, is a great starting place to begin the journey.
And it's also important to realize that there's a lot of rhythms in life. The rhythm of waking and sleeping, the rhythm of hunger and not being hungry, and to be sensitive to your own rhythms so that you start things or you do things when you feel like it, when it's positive, when it's appropriate, when the tide is moving in your direction. So
now, I think all of that takes a certain skill. And the skill that I think really is that the heart of self-care is self-love. Self-care to me is self-love. And what love is, again, a little frustration of mine, nobody ever talks about this, but what love is the free gift of attention. And if you've seen the book, You Could Be Right or You Could Be Married, that I usually keep over here on the shelf, I talk about love as attention. And so if you really want to do good self-care, what you really want to do is start with self-love, which means bring attention to yourself. Pay attention to yourself. So the two things that Tom, you've already mentioned, have a kind of a beginning place of pay attention. Pay attention to what feels good. Pay attention.
Pleasure attracts attention, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and pay attention to the rhythms, the rhythm of things. Getting in a dilemma or forcing yourself or shooting yourself to do something isn't really a right answer. But allowing yourself to pay attention to yourself is the starting point for self-care. It's the starting point for self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people have a problem with that, self-love. That seems like that's a no-no.
Egotism.
Yeah, that's egotistic. That's narcissistic. We're pushing the grain here.
Well, I think of it as keeping your child alive. Every one of us has a child inside of us, and that's really our most natural part. That's the part of us that's closest to us.
Good.
And, there's a certain tendency to go like that towards your child, but to feel your child, to be your child, to keep your child alive, keeps you alive.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's self-love, is when you're tapping into that inner child of yours and you're allowing
Loving
that
your child, yeah.
Yeah, allowing your child to come out and play. That is often what self-love is.
Yeah.
And so I often think that people are worried about being selfish or narcissistic.
Yeah.
And there's some appropriateness to that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to swing the pendulum the other direction. But the basic idea, principle that helps people is balance. Mm-hmm. And true selfishness means I'm only focused on myself. That's true selfishness, where I don't care about anybody else, I only focus on me. And the other extreme, selflessness, is what brings, I think, most of us to burnout, is that we never think about ourselves. We never bring attention to ourselves. But I think love is a balance.
Yes.
Love is a balance of loving my neighbor, loving other people, and loving myself. And that balance, loving God or loving others as you love yourself, is how we make sure that we're not on either extreme. And self-care is just learning how to do the other half of the equation that most people don't understand or don't get.
Well, and you made an interesting slip of the tongue because you mentioned loving God.
Yeah.
And that's really an important part of the equation. You and I are not the most important things in the universe. It's important to have a sense of that which is greater than I am. And not only just a sense of it, but a feeling of affection, of love, of devotion towards that which is greater, whatever denomination or name you want to give it.
Right.
It helps us feel that we're part of something. We're not isolated all alone in the universe. Mm-hmm. There's a connection between us and the source of life and health and love.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think self-care is an important part of that, because the law of love, if you guys are into scriptures at all or ever read scriptures, the law of love is twofold, basically. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. That's the law of love.
That's the second part.
Yeah, the second part that Christ says is like the first. He says it's just like the first part. Those two parts are really interconnected. And in developing a relationship with God, I have to have a certain amount of self-love to be able to connect with something greater. So self-love is not selfish. Self-love is not narcissistic. Self-love is balanced, and that's really what we want to create. Now, let's throw some ideas out there, because people like, the practical. But again, I want to go through the understanding of what we're doing instead of just throwing a list out there, because there's tons of lists. What does self-care look like? It's taking a warm bath. It's journal writing. It's doing yoga. There's a whole list of different things out there. But I really think that self-love has to be self-attention. You have to bring some attention to yourself. And you could do that. Here's a simple example. I could be in the middle of a project and find myself, like you were talking about, being obsessive, being kind of anxious about it, getting kind of, consumed by it. and I can just stop for a second. The old phrase, smell the roses. Stop for a second, take a breath, focus on me, let myself ground myself, and then move on.
While we're into the practical, here's a thing that helped me. When I was much younger, there was a period, very difficult period in my life where I was prone to feel overwhelmed and depressed. And for some reason, as I went to sleep each night, I would deliberately think of something the next morning or the next day that I wanted to do. Maybe it's as simple as wearing my favorite shirt or eating something for breakfast that I really liked. But I would think of something that I could look forward to as I went to sleep. And usually if I did that, then when I woke up, I would wake up with a positive orientation rather than it's morning, kind of negative dread. So that's just a little practical hint.
Yeah,
It doesn't take much.
Yeah. The other practical hint I would say goes along with that is I'd recommend do your self-care in the morning, because what tends to happen is that if we put our self-care off as kind of our last thing we do, we take care of everything else on the list, and we're number 10. We never get to number 10. But if you do your self-care first, you get up in the morning and you go on a walk, or you get up in the morning and you spend time with your animals, or you journal, whatever it is that you love to do to bring attention to yourself for a moment. Meditate, pray, whatever that may be. Do it first thing. And what that does is it sets your day in a positive way, and it's like recharging your battery. I always recharge my batteries on my phone at night, so when I wake up in the morning, I start my day with a full charge.
Charged battery, yeah.
Yeah.
Another little hint about it, because often self-care involves changing patterns. Our lives are filled with patterns. We think of them as habits. And they're more harder to change than one would think they are. And so if there's a change you need to make in your life, that you want to make in your life, don't scold yourself into doing it. Think about it for a while. Feel into it. Wait for the rhythms of your life to come along with it. And then start it, but start it very, very small. If you start it very, very small, maybe 5 minutes, maybe walking around the block once. If it's small, then you can't talk yourself out of it quite as easily. Right. And after a couple of weeks, it becomes established. It becomes another pattern. And then you don't even have to think about it. And then you can make it a little bigger if you want to. Okay. But that applies to everything: exercise, diet, relationships to other people, things at work. Start small and start positive.
Yeah. That way you avoid that resistance, that conflict that you get into with yourself. Yeah, good. All right, your homework assignment, guess what it is? Self-care. I want you to bring attention to yourself every day. And I would practice, as I always practice, in the short form and the long form. My suggestion, the long form is spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes doing, just focusing on yourself, bringing some self-care, whatever that looks like for you. If that's, gardening, whatever that may be for you, it's fine. And then the long form is 10, 15, 20 minutes. The short form is like you're saying, just take a minute throughout the day. 2 or 3, 4, 5 times a day. Just take a minute.
But be consistent so the pattern develops.
Yeah, just take a minute throughout the day to focus on yourself. Take a breath, center yourself, focus on God, whatever you feel like is self-care. Do that for a minute and then move on, and then do it again, maybe an hour, 2 hours later. Just do little self-care breaks throughout the day. Those are your mini habits.
And here's another tiny little thing that you can do for yourself. Get a pencil and paper and make a list of 5 things that you really enjoy doing, but they're small things, so you can't talk yourself out of them. But make a little list of 5 things that give you a little bit of pleasure.
Yeah, good. All right. Thanks again for watching. I'm Brett with my guest, Tom Williams. And I hope to see you soon on the gathering of good people. Take care.